are the offspring of the Japanese gardener who leave their stamp on America. Sing a song for ourselves. What have we got to lose? Sing a song for ourselves. We got the right to choose. We got the right to choose. We got the right to choose. Foster children of the Pepsi generation, cowboys and Indians ride, red men ride. Hey, watching war movies with the next door neighbor, secretly rooting for the other side. Sing a song for ourselves. What have we got to lose? Sing a song for ourselves. We got the right to choose. We got the right to choose. We got the right to choose. We are the cousins of the freedom fighter, brothers and sisters all around the world. We are a part of the third world people who will leave their stamp on America. Who will leave their stamp on America? Who will leave our stamp on America? Who will leave our stamp on America? America.
Welcome everybody. Good morning. Yeah, good morning also for the people participating virtual, and welcome for this API Heritage Month Chapel. And and this service that we will focus on the Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and specifically on the theme of hearing our histories. And so you are welcome to come as you are with your full self, and no part of you needs to stay outside the walls of this chapel service. And today we are focused on our histories and the liberation that inspire us to build presence and a future of liberation. And we are happy that we have the reference Jeanelle, Ablola from API Narrative Projects to do the reflection session. And also do that reflection. And we are focused on histories that have been suppressed and hidden. And when I'm doing kind of this preparation, I felt it's interesting. I found it out that on our PSR, the timelines that we can see that from 1866, that will be enfranchising Chinese immigrants ahead of this Constitution Act. That is the first one we participate, and we are honored with that social justice from our timeline, from our history. So that's really amazing when I just doing this preparation. And then we also will recovering, centering, and healing those histories from the purpose of creating a world where all can truly bring their whole selves to the faith space and spiritual space, or separate spaces. So welcome to the space of healing, and also empathy, and wholeness, and liberation.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
All right, so in embodying our histories and healing, I invite you to take a deep breath and feel the ground underneath your feet. Feel your weight, embrace the earth, and bring into your consciousness others supported by the land from the past and present. In all that we do to accomplish the mission of PSR in this location, we acknowledge that we do so on the sacred and unceded territory of the Chochenyo-speaking Ohlone people, the successors of the sovereign Verona Band of Alameda County. We are ever grateful for their faithful stewardship of this holy ground, which continues to support all we seek to do in the name of justice and compassion. In particular, on this day, when we acknowledge the beginning of Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we reflect upon histories and healing, it is important to remember that PSR has had a long-standing commitment to vibrant theological and justice-oriented engagement with Asian American, and Asian Pacific Islander communities. As we consider acknowledgement of the land, we turn our attention to the place now known as Angel Island and its original inhabitants. So your imagination of your weight, of your feet, let it expand all the way to Angel Island. We take the time to note that beginning nearly 3,000 years ago, members of the coastal Miwok tribes used the island for fishing and hunting. The Miwoks reached the island using boats made from tool reeds. Once on the island, they established temporary camps at places now known as Ayala Cove, Camp Reynolds, Fort McDowell, and the immigration station. From the early mid-20th century, this beautiful unceded territory would be used as a place of both exclusion and imprisonment. And this time, I invite you to touch something physically. It could be the table, it could be your chair, and just feel that firmness, because carved on the walls at the immigration station on Angel Island are hundreds of poems etched into the wood by Chinese immigrants waiting for permission to enter the United States between 1910 and 1940. Thanks to the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882, some were detained there for months. During World War II, 5 PSR seminarians were imprisoned under government orders in relocation centers for Japanese Americans on the West Coast. PSR President Arthur C. McGifford and Professor John C. Bennett, among others, spoke up against the internment, and Stilson Judah, PSR's librarian, helped to organize libraries in the relocation centers. That's powerful. PSR's history is deeply tied to the history of Angel Island, and so we offer both homage to the coastal Miwok indigenous peoples, faithful stewards of that land, and we also pay homage to the memory of all those of Chinese and Japanese descent who were detained in the immigration centers of that land. In all that we do, may we honor the lineage and the legacy of the land and its inhabitants by choice and coercion. And may we continue our work to build a world where all can thrive.
Good afternoon. I have not come here alone.
Not come here alone.
I carry my people in my bones.
I carry my people in my bones.
I have not come here alone,
I have not come here alone.
and if you listen, you can hear them in my soul.
And if you listen, you can hear them in my soul.
I invite you to rise and join as you are able. I have not come here alone. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. I have not come here alone. And if you listen, you can hear them in my soul. I have not come here alone. my people in my bones. I have not come here alone. And if you listen, you can hear them in my soul. I have not come here alone. I carry my people in my bones. I have not come here alone. And if you listen, you can hear that in my soul. Thank you. See you.
Revealed. So much has been hidden to protect narratives and people, to disempower, to confuse, and satisfy with stories that get us by, but never get us free. May we be people who look beyond, who listen beneath, who feel through and through. Though we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part, we do not grow weary in faith. Though evil shrouds our view, with each new learning and unlearning, the partial fades away. The histories and complicities and losses and power of our entangled lives cry out for understanding. With courage, we open ourselves to truth. With humility, we endeavor to be transformed. With hope, we hold on to each other. May love lead us in the sacred work of unveiling. May all that shrouds justice be uncovered, and the ways of healing be revealed.
You to sing in your seats, or do you want to stand? Let's stand. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. And like gold, keep on shining. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. And like gold, keep on shining. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. We were made for these times. And like gold, keep on shining. We were made for these times.
I'm kind of nervous. Okay. Okay, one more. First, I would like to invite everyone to think about how we can ignite social justice through compassion and empathy. Just think about that. So I can have a little. I'm really nervous. Okay, I want to use this 5 minutes to share about these things, and I want to encourage each other. Okay. Thank you. I would like to start by expressing my gratitude to First Church Berkeley, the United Church of Christ, our neighborhood, for their support and encouragement. Because since last October, they have an Asian American ministry called the PAM. That will be in the Northern California the Venta region. This role has given me the monthly opportunity to connect with the churches of diverse cultural backgrounds in Northern California, and I can have a chance to witness rich faith atmospheres and the kindness and a care in their interactions and from their congregation. And I also want to thank the Chinese Congregational Church in San Francisco, UCC, that is a part of the PAM. And this church is 151 years old and has members of many generations of Chinese American. Also, it includes many from non-Chinese backgrounds, so that is creating a diverse congregation. This church took the initiative to invite and graciously allow me to preach at their Easter Sunday service last month. It's making it my first sermon preaching in English since coming to the United States in August last year. And I'm also grateful for the communication courses led by President David at PSR this spring, which has strengthened my confidence in preparing the sermons. And additionally, I want to thank for Thursday Online Cafe, which allowed me to share preaching resources to my peers and our classmates online in the weeks heading up to my sermon. And this sermon was very essential and very important to me. Not only because it's my first, but also because it took place on Easter. In this sermon, I merely echo and affirm a significant announcement made by the church in early March. This church, the Chinese Congregational Church in San Francisco, they declare themselves be an open and affirming church in the UCC. Wow. But what exactly does open and affirming mean? Every church in the UCC, if they want to be becoming an open and affirming church, they must draft their own covenant. So their covenant states that we welcome all who seeks to follow Jesus, including person of every age, gender, race, national origin, faith background, marital status, and family structure, sexual orientation, gender identity and expression, mental and physical ability, economic and social status, and educational background to share in the life, leadership, ministry, fellowship, worship, sacraments, responsibility, blessing, and joys of our church family. Wow. This church deeply impressed me, not just for being open and affirming, but the profound historical reasons rooted in their covenant. They remember a painful part of history In 1882, the United States enacts the Chinese Inclusion Act, the first law to ban a specific ethnic group fueled by the racism and hatred. This law, which lasted until 1943, has had a long-lasting impact on the Chinese American and broader Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. This contributing to the racism and anti-Asian hate we still confront today. Furthermore, the Church on History in 1873, when 7 Chinese American Christians were unjustly denied membership by some at the Third, another Congregational Church in San Francisco, shows a very important and critical moment. This rejection led those brave souls to establish this one Chinese Congregational Church in San Francisco. So they want to remember this struggle and the ongoing fight for justice from the past. They affirm their commitment to be an open and affirming church welcoming to all. This initiative represents myself. I understand how complex and how difficult, how challenging it is to accept progressive thinking within a cultural framework. Okay, so let's talk a little bit serious. It is not just in my own culture. Many individuals from diverse cultural backgrounds have these common things we often hear, especially from some cultural conservatives, saying that our culture doesn't have anything like LGBTQ stuff, no non-binary genders, nothing like that, so we are that, we are that, we are that. But instead of jumping into this debate, whether your culture or my culture has these things or not, I would rather clarify my stance on the cultural traditions, which does not entail a lack of compassion, empathy, or lack of wisdom to continuously learn, understand, and respect life around us, regardless of difference in the appearance of our nature. I firmly believe that if our ancestors had not achieved the wisdom to interpret and integrate culture with the flexibility and resilience, we will not have survived and proudly embraced our cultural heritage here today. And the reason why we need compassion and empathy is because we have seen the suffering people go through. The discrimination, the pain, the loneliness, the exclusion, the lack of understanding. They are all parts of suffering that people endure. Yes. All these sufferings of human nature push us to say, no, 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 no. We are not passing this inclusion and this discrimination to our kids and the next generation. I think every culture holds this profound wisdom if you are strong and confident enough in your own culture. As we worry whether there will be a next generation in the churches, whether young people will continue to come or pass our cultural heritage, our first concern is whether our churches and the community are willing to open their doors and extend the reach of the love of gospel to care for those who are marginalized and different from us, and then prayerfully put into your own cultural context. I believe this does not diminish our cultural identity, but showcase the wisdom and the generosity inherited in our cultural traditions. In the Merriam-Webster dictionary, the word empathy is defined as the feeling that you understand and you share another people's experience and emotion. That's an English dictionary. However, in my culture, the Paiwan tribe of Taiwan's indigenous people, we have a word for empathy called similacing, which goes beyond just feeling for others. In our culture, similacing involves a deep connection to specific individuals, those who are vulnerable, marginalized, or otherwise overlooked. And it compelled us to take concrete action to help. This is what truly empathy or simulacing means to me and to our culture. So just as our Dr. Leonard enlightened us in our empathy class on Monday night, reflecting on Susan Lanzoni's book, Empathy, Race, and the Politics, it becomes clearly that empathy is more than just a feeling. It's a mighty force for social change. Lanzoni reminds us that justice and empathy are possible through the commonalities of human experiences and the ability to understand and identify with these common human experiences. This powerful statement highlights empathy's crucial role in our quest to build a more inclusive and caring society. By embracing empathy, we not only recognize and share struggles and the joys of humanity, but also pledge to actively work towards creating a world more equitable for all. Okay, this Easter. In chapter 4, where Jesus declares in the synagogues a mission to bring the liberating good news to the world and to bring fairness and justice to the society. It was my first time in an open and affirming church after delivering many sermons in a conservative evangelical setting back in my hometown. That open and affirming covenant declaration brought theology to life in the church, moving beyond just words on the page and to make it in the practical guidelines applied within the community. It was not just an idealistic utopia. I saw their courage and hope for life's restoration in the declaration. I sincerely hope and pray that in the future, more churches will integrate theology, the gospels of Jesus' love, and the faith in a way that aligns with action. The last, let empathy stop being merely a speaking slogan, and let it become a lived reality for the marginalized in the present and to the future. Amen. Amen.
Let's rise and sing together. We will hope in these times. We will sing in these
We will hope in these times. We will hope in these times.
And like gold will keep on shining.
Keep on shining. We will hope in these times.
We will sing.
We will sing in these times. We will sing in these times. And like gold will keep on shining. We will sing in these times.
All right, you were nervous, but I have to follow you.
Thank you for your words. I'm going to set myself up here. Okay. So I've been invited to speak today about the API Narratives Project, which is a project that Pacific School of Religion has sort of started off in conversation with folks who have talked about the history of API relationship with Pacific School of Religion. So we see in our timeline here that there are various ways that the API community and PSR have been in relationship with one another. And some folks may not know that there was a center called, well, you see it in your timeline here, where it says 1972. We have PAX, and then later you have the establishment of PANAUTUM, which is still going on today, and then we have PANA in 2001. And so I am part of this project of recording the narrative history of PAX and PANA. PAX and PANA, they were programs that were here at Pacific School of Religion. Actually, a little bit down the hill was PANA House. And I was here, as you see in their bulletin. I graduated from PSR in 2010. And PANA ended in 2009. So while I was a student here, in the midst of the closure, I felt like it made sense for me to be part of this project, being a student and also someone who has benefited from the services and the ministries of PANA itself. So a little bit about PAX and PANA. What I've gathered from these interviews, so I'm documenting the history by documenting interviews from different people who have experienced the PANA program. There was a shift from the PAX program to the PANA program, and one of the major things that I saw during the interviews that came out was that PANA was more community focused. This is what some of the people I interviewed said. That while PAX was very much about theology, eventually the theology had to expand into action and also was being informed by the communities that these theologians and ministers and spiritual leaders were writing about and talking about. And so it was inevitable that we would have to expand this work into community. So it went from more theology into more praxis. Like, what does this look like on the ground? What does this theology look like lived out in our everyday lives and in our communities? And so PANA got us, and I'm saying this during my time as a seminarian, it got me off of campus. I didn't live on campus because I am an introvert and I felt like I would just make a little cave here and stay on my own. But through the work of PANA, I was able to get off campus and even get out of my church and into the histories of what was here in the Bay Area, especially around API histories. Myself as a student here, I also, it was hard times here during my time. I think I was one of 3 Filipinos who were studying here at PSR throughout the different programs, not just in MDiv, but that included the PhD programs and the DMin programs, as far as PSR goes. And so PANA was my safe haven. I would go there when I would feel upset, when I was overwhelmed by being here, because of the academic culture, because of whiteness within academic culture. PANA was my safe haven. So I would go there, sometimes I would go there to cry, I would go there to eat, for sure. But it was a place where I could feel connected and remember why I was here at PSR and why I was continuing on in my studies at that time. Through PANA, they had a program called R2W, or Represent to Witness, which focused on youth and young adult Pacific Islander communities. Folks who usually wouldn't think about going into MDiv programs, going into academia because of the cost of it, because of the accessibility of it. Communities where maybe even if they weren't going into ministry, they didn't think of themselves as spiritual leaders or think of themselves as people who are living into and interpreting and living into theology. Represent to Witness gave youth and young adults of Pacific Islander heritage that space. We also have a program called Network for Religion and Justice for API LGBTQ people, or NRJ. we shortened it. So NRJ was a place that held the intersections of being people of faith, being Asian Pacific Islander, and also being LGBTQ. And at that time, it was a very unique space, and it still is in many places. But it was one place where I felt for the first time I didn't have to compartmentalize any of my identities. I could just simply be and have all of, I've been created to be embraced in that space, and I could meet others as well. I actually met one of the congregants at the church that you preached at the Chinese church in San Francisco. Because of NRJ, we gathered up actually a few months ago, and I met Georgette there, so it's cool. This work, this ministry continues to connect us. And then we had the pilgrimages. While I was here as a student and going to PANDA's programs, we went to Manzanar, we went to Angel Island, which I had never been before, and I probably would have never gone if not for PANDA. And also went to Stockton to visit historic Manila town, which I also didn't know about and probably would not have visited. At that pilgrimage to Manzanar, there were many folks who joined us on that trip. It was for anyone who was curious and who wanted to learn. So there were many people, communities of color that were there that shared reflections. And I'm gonna tell you, the folks who had Japanese heritage had a different experience than folks who had Filipino heritage, who had different experience than those who had Chinese heritage. And yet we were there together on this one pilgrimage, sharing our reflections, sharing our stories, and sharing what we were taking away from it. It was all healing, and also the discomfort of healing was there at the same time. And then that pilgrimage to Stockton, to Manila town, where we got to hear from folks who were doing research at that time, particularly someone named Don Mabalon, who has since passed away. And now in San Francisco, I don't know if you all have heard, there's a musical of Larry Itliong. So I think it's safe to say that PANA was ahead of its time. There are communities now, API, LGBTQ, people of faith now, who are looking for communities like that, not knowing that NRJ had existed some 20 years ago. And so it's interesting doing this project in regards to uncovering history, uncovering reflections, and what people's experiences were of the PANA programs. But it does sound like regardless of whether there was a home for PANA at PSR or not, there was a desire to heal. And that desire to heal while here on campus, it was also a way to empower us as people here, as students here, but also our communities as a whole. To uncover our histories is to heal in ways that move us towards empowerment. We are uncovering history in ways that compassion will move us towards justice and solidarity, like you had mentioned. This project, after hearing interview after interview, I'm hearing that folks have different ways of interacting, recalling, and telling the stories. Some folks I interviewed felt very far away, that PANA was a very far away thing, and they had just been busy with other things. And then other folks I interviewed, it was still very close to them, so close that it broke their hearts a little bit to even think about talking about PANA again. Healing hits us in different ways, even if we experience things similarly, even if a community is impacted by the same thing, we all heal, respond, and move forward in different ways and in different timelines. This is one thing that I'm learning through this project, and I feel really honored and privileged to be able to not just document this history, but be a pastoral presence for the folks who are recalling these stories and going back to those times of when PANA was such a big part of their lives and in shaping their ministry. Now, the folks of PANA, we haven't gone because PANA had closed down. Our communities are still connecting. Throughout this time, nearly 20 years, we have continued on rising up alongside one another in the streets, in communities, doing the work of justice, doing the work of advocacy. There was the folks who had organized the pilgrimages here at Pana. Some of them were involved with organizing a pilgrimage a couple months ago, a pilgrimage for Gaza here in the East Bay. If history does anything, it helps us to deepen our sense of compassion so that we can do those types of things. We are part of advocating in our institutions. We're also taking direct action, some of us, and many of us, all of us, are learning alongside our congregations and our communities, especially in this political moment. Uncovering our histories is not easy, not just for this project, but in general, uncovering our histories is not easy. It has to be interpreted. We have to make meaning of it. We have to see who is writing the history and whose dominant narratives are we seeing in the first place and have the most access to. We have to grapple with the choices that our ancestors made. We have to grapple with the choices our allies have made or what they had suffered through. But to uncover history is needed in order to shed that light that we may have clarity in our conviction against the things that have oppressed us, especially for API communities. To clarify our conviction against colonization, to clarify our conviction against war, to clarify our conviction against the things that ravage our lands and make our homelands unsustainable for us to live, that we have to come here in the first place. Institutions have to take the lead of communities. Oftentimes institutions have opposing interests, and that was clear in the API narratives project so far. There were just different interests that were existing. At the same time, we use this history, these opposing interests, these many personalities, these relationships that were involved in our histories, we use them in order to make things better for our generations moving forward, and to make our work better, and to make our view of our work sharper and more clear. To uncover history means you have to come down from Holy Hill. You have to come down from the mountains and into the valleys. It means you have to come down from this hill and check out the student encampments. It means coming down and seeing where the people are at, what questions they're asking, that our theology may continue to be relevant to our spiritual lives as API people. Leon Alejandro, who's a martyr who was killed during the first Marcos presidency, he was a student organizer. He said the struggle to be free is the next best thing to actually being free. And this idea, this project, this work of uncovering our histories is this work of us trying to get free. So I pray that as we continue on, and as I continue on doing these interviews, I know that I'll have the support of this community. I'm confident in that. And I hope that inspires you all and those who will follow after. Amen.
And saying we will work in these times. We will rise in these times.
We
Well, we bicker and we backbite. That's the reality. And the backbiting is vicious. So I think we need to dialogue more. And when I look for chances where we can have these dialogues, and we have them in our denomination now. And I think it's better to keep talking to each other rather than about each other or at each other. And so it's important to set up these dialogues that are visible so that people see this needs to happen among us.
Backbiting is vicious. And so I think we need to dialogue more. I think it's better to keep talking to each other rather than about each other or at each other. And it's important to set up these dialogues that are visible so people can see this needs to happen among us. This is Bishop Roy Sano speaking, and today, this year's 2024 United Methodist General Conference happening right now in Charlotte is a historic gathering that will decide on legislation that will shape the future of one of the nation's largest mainline Protestant denominations. The UMC has experienced a period of disaffiliation, with about a quarter of US-based churches leaving between 2019 and 2023 due to disagreements over what they're calling doctrine, scriptural authority, tradition, etc., really over sexuality and the right to discriminate against LGBTQ+ persons. So far, the 2024 General Conference has voted in favor of a worldwide regionalization plan, which is being framed in terms of decolonization and allowing each region greater equity in tailoring and contextualizing church life for its own customs and traditions. Today, we focused on healing our histories. In observance of API Heritage and History Month, we've heard reflections from Qaisul, Takihunang, and Reverend Jeanelle Ablola. And now I'm here to help us celebrate the republication of the Theologies of Asian Americans and Pacific Peoples, a reader, affectionately referred to as the PAX reader, compiled by Bishop Roy Sano, who we just heard, and now also edited by Daniel Lee in its republished version. Healing history involves listening to history. As we heard in the poem from Infleshed, written by M.J. Kaiser, read by Michelle Estrellado, our own, online, so much has been hidden to protect narratives and to protect people, to disempower, to confuse. May we be a people who look beyond, who listen beneath, who feel through and through. Between 1972 and 78, Bishop Roy Sano was the director of the Pacific and Asian American Center for Theology and Strategies in Berkeley, PAX for short, and he was the director of PAX when this reader was compiled, bringing together theological work from API perspectives in one of the first collections of its kind. He was also on the faculty here at PSR, teaching theology, and he also made history in 1984 as the first Japanese American bishop in the United Methodist Church. The Pax Reader was originally compiled in 1978, but it was literally being photocopied and bound together, and only those in a small circle of Asian American religious studies scholars were aware of its existence. So this problem has now been rectified by the 2022 republication of the book. And it contains titles like Coalitional Organizing, The Origins of the Asian American Protestant Movement of the 60s and 70s, and Why an Asian American Theology of Liberation. In the words of Emory Religious History professor Helen Jin Kim, the Pax Reader is legendary. What a gift to have these historic voices of Asian American liberation available to us in this newly bound form. The compelling and insightful introductory essays remind us of the importance of cross-racial solidarity, the distinctive racialization of Asian America then and now, and the ongoing power of a faith committed to social change. It could be easy in our historical memory to simplistically in Asian American politics. And as Daniel Lee notes in his introduction, the publishing of this reader, compiled 45 years ago, represents an effort to correct that narrative and recover a historical memory. We cannot erase our histories of resistance. And in fact, and I'm quoting from an essay titled The Asian American Movement and the Church, published in 2022, written by historian Jane Hong. She writes, since the 19th century, Asian American Christians fought to liberate their homelands from colonial rule and racial exclusions in US law, and alongside other racialized communities, promote the social welfare and political self-determination of people of color in the United States and around the world. In this essay, she goes on to explain that the activism of Bishop Roy Sano connected the work of Pax to the to the legacies of Japanese Americans' wartime incarceration. As the largest Asian American population at mid-century during World War II, Japanese Americans experienced that few white churches publicly opposed the US government's incarceration of 120,000 people in state-sponsored camps. And the white mainline clergy sent to those incarcerated often did little to address the worst material deprivations. Bishop Sano carried this history, including his own experience of being interned at a camp himself, into his work with Pax. In closing, as Qaisul and Reverend Jeanelle urged in their sharing, our activism today is connected to a long history of API coalitional liberation struggles for all people. We can stand in solidarity with Palestine today and all those who are oppressed. We can stand with the student encampments across college campuses in this nation. We can say no to genocide, remembering that we are part of a long lineage of standing up and taking our people with us, moving towards collective liberation together. So let us know our histories and know ourselves, heal our histories and heal ourselves, and take our people with us. Thank you.
Good morning and good afternoon, one and all. So we are now at the the work of the people. I was about to say call of the people. Usually around this time, usually call up the people to make their announcements. Before I make any further announcements, there is a special announcement, and I would like to call up President David, if you would like to give out that special announcement.
Venga. Good morning, everyone, and again, thank you, Qaisul, thank you, Jeanelle, Pastor Delia, and the whole planning team for today's chapel. It's really moving and powerful, so let's give them a round of applause. We are celebrating the 60th anniversary starting at 5 o'clock right here for a party. And you can join us, even if you haven't had a chance to respond, just show up, come in person, online. We'll start at 5:30 online, but really delighted to be able to celebrate. I'm grateful for your leadership, for your partnership, and for your being with us. Let me just say a couple quick other announcements while I'm up here. Again, just gratitude to Jeanelle for their leadership with our API Narratives project that was framed in conversation with many folks who helped to shape the work of Hannah and Pax, and to find a way to both acknowledge the giftedness of the relationship and the work that PSR has done for the inclusion of API people from its very beginning, but also to name the mixed heritage and tradition and legacy of that relationship, and moments at which the school, in relationship to that community, to those very diverse communities, and to others, has not always lived up to its own commitments. And so what we committed to do is to tell stories, to recognize that side by side we must tell stories of both inclusion as well as stories of exclusion, so we may learn and live with more faithfulness. And also to be able to think about what are the stories that have continued since the particular expressions of these connections have ended. How has that work continued in the lives of people who were shaped by them? I have to say that in many ways, what we experience today, if you take a moment and look around this room, this is the legacy of Pax. This is the legacy of Hannah. It is really the creation of a very different reality for this institution. In its commitments to the preparation of people, not only in a graduate level, but beyond that we are pursuing right now, those are the seeds of Hannah's work, trying to seek themselves as a resistance against some of the other ways in which exclusion shapes, not just PSR, but many of our academic institutions. And so for that legacy, we are grateful. As you preached about First Chinese Congregational Church that was formed out of the work of Ji Gan, a PSR alum, one of the earliest ones that went on to found several Chinese congregations across the Western United States. And in partnership with Benton, many of you live in Benton, it really made an effort to try to advocate for the baptism of those Chinese members of our congregations or individuals in a congregation to be accepted. When they were rejected, what actually happened is that the church eventually voted to accept it, but they split anyway because many people left after that decision into that congregation. And so it's a long history and commitment for the school for which we are grateful. And the last, we do keep in prayer the United Methodist Church as it gathers to model conversation, sometimes not in the best ways, but the general conference is taking place. It is really important and be attentive to what's going on there. And one last announcement, Thursday will be one of our partners' major events here on campus, Fong Institute. We'll have all of their capstone projects out on the quad. We'll have about 800 people on the quad. Great food. It's open to all. Come have some food. Look at the projects they're working on and the reason that they're in our connections with us.
What time will you come?
It's on the announcement. I think it starts around 4, but I'm
4 to 6.
4 to 6. Okay. Tomorrow they'll be installing one of those projects, which is a portable solar system. So that's going to be right outside the store. So just FYI, things will be happening on campus. Thanks.
Thank you for that, President David. So here we have the class of 2024 senior gift and accepting donations. So there you have the website. Those of you who want to donate, make any donations, and I'd like to see Reverend Ms. Anthony about this.
So I just want to say that the donations will be split between what we call the Shelter in a Time of Sorrow Student Emergency Fund. Return it on, there we are. So it will be shared between the Shelter in a Time of Storm Student Emergency Fund, because emergencies do happen sometimes and extra support is needed, but also the Sogoreate Land Trust, which will enable us to put into action what we talk about each week in terms of the land acknowledgement. They are involved in the rematriation of the land here. And so please be generous. I've already given my donation to the senior gifts, so follow me. All right, thank you.
Next slide, please. All right. This month, or next month, we have our 2024 commencement. All right. So, those of you who want to join, can reach Miss Ann. We have, like you see on the slide, music is available, so bring your talent, beautiful voices, whatnot. You know, make our graduation more live. Yeah. So, yeah.
Amen.
Or, want to say more?
Nope, just see me. We need singers.
Cheers. Next slide, please. All right, online cafe. I'm calling on Brother Manny. There he goes, calling the people again.
Well, your memory is still fresh of what happened 2 weeks ago. We all had a lively celebration. So we are holding space to gather what we did well and also how we can do better. That really is what the space is for. And now that finals is here, check in. We're checking in with people. How are you feeling? What is your pride number? Have you checked in with your pride partner? What's that conversation doing? So please come in. Join us 4 p.m. tomorrow to 5:15. Staff and faculty are welcome too. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, Mr. Bernie.
Two things. Next Tuesday, we have Queer Jews Across the Generations, so please join us for that. That's one of our Jewish Query series. And I also want to make mention that on the 16th of May, CLGS's Asian American Pacific Islander Roundtable will be doing a Training the Trainers, I think that's how you say it, event for our Valuing Families Christian Education for the Household of God. It's a workshop and curriculum for LGBTQ inclusion. And that'll be done with our coordinator, Maj Lumai. And just to make a mention that our Asian American Pacific Islander Roundtable was the very first roundtable that we founded. And some of you may know that when the Center for LGBTQ and Gender Studies and Religion, CLGS, was founded, it could not be a GTU program because there were too many objections from other schools to sponsoring something as queer as CLGS. And also, the very first institution to coordinate with us and to work with us was PANA in founding the API Roundtable. So we're proud of that and also hope we might see you on the 16th for this curriculum training. Thank you.
All right, I'll call on Dana or Mo if you want to talk more about this.
On the topic of the importance of storytelling, I think we've heard that as a consistent theme. This next episode that we drop next Wednesday, episode 3 with Lauren Snelling and Dory King, led by our beloved Maurice King and his beloved wife, Dory King, in this episode. They talk about the importance of storytelling in their respective fields as educators. And Lauren is a child psychotherapist, counselor committed to disrupting systems that are not supporting Black children. She is working very hard to disrupt those systems. Dory is a children's picture book writer, an educator, a mindfulness practitioner. She is also Mo's beloved wife. I've had the lucky fortune of just presencing just the development of her work with children. In this episode, we learn about those experiences that they have creating important spaces for Black children to thrive, to nurture their identities, to explore them, and the challenges that they're facing in predominantly white institutions. And the need for advocacy and leadership with young people. Have a listen next Wednesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Lastly, I would just like to extend a wholehearted welcome to a very special guest in our community chapel today, Phyllis Drennan King. She is the VP of Strategy and the Chief of Staff at American Baptist Church in Nashville. She's a small business owner, a community and civic leader, and she is Mo's beloved sister. She was a guest on one of our podcast episodes last season that I had, again, the lucky fortune of listening to 3 or 4 times and let it myself just steep in the wisdom. The importance of this episode sheds light on not only storytelling, but we can set spaces open for people. We talk about I'm available from 3 to 5 on Thursdays. I'm available from 12 to 1 on Fridays. But the importance of intergenerational relationships and being found on the proverbial porches where people can share stories with us. That analogy has stuck with me week over week over week, and I thank you for bringing that into my life as I find myself on a proverbial porch so that people can find me and be in community with me. And may we spread that to everyone as we become increasingly busy with all of the things we are manifesting, all of the communities that we are leading. And thank you for that gift that imprinted on my heart. I hope everyone has a listen and just goes to the Ignite website, ignite.psr.edu, goes back to the season just before the one we're in, and drops in to listen to Phyllis King. Thank you so much for your gifts. And thank you to Mo for all of the things that he's juggling and continuing to give Change Happens Now his seemingly full dedication. He lightens up my day and my week every Friday and through this season. Thank you for your gifts.
Okay, I believe that is all the announcements that I have on my end, but if any other announcements? No, God bless you all.
Sing with us. I just can't give up now.
Receive this benediction. May our histories find us. May our histories heal us, empower us, convict us, help us to build relationships of solidarity rooted in justice. May we not give up on building beloved community. And may we not give up on the work of our ancestors. May we not give up on the work of our liberation. Amen.
Two announcements we forgot. Board meeting Sunday, Monday. Please join remotely if you like or in person for observing those meetings and keep the processes in prayer. And next Tuesday is Senior Chapel.
And one more, I meant to welcome and announce an alum, former staff member of the board, Jim Matulski,